And joining us now, Democratic Congressman from New York, Gregory Meeks, who writes in a new op-ed, Trump's tariffs are a farce. We who are in Congress can and must act. Congressman, thanks for joining us. You're arguing it's time for Congress to step in. So I want you to hear these comments last night from the president. Listen.
These countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir. And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say, I think that Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate.
Congressman, he says, you don't negotiate like he does. Your response?
My response is, I didn't go bankrupt 6 times. He did. So I don't know why we use his judgment on how to negotiate. He's proven in his own businesses that he goes bankrupt. And what he's trying to do is to kill America with his force and his lying. Because clearly I'm talking to, as the ranking member on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I've had many foreign ministers and ambassadors that are coming to me. And what they're looking at is how to plan differently. They're not to rely on the United States. And some are looking back to dealing closer with China because of what his activities are. So it's bad for us internationally with our friends who he treats as adversaries. And it's bad for the average everyday working American who these tariffs are taxes to, which would make prices go up. So I wouldn't follow him. He's not a good businessman as far as I'm concerned. I'm from New York. I've seen him go bankrupt at least 6 times.
So, Congressman, what can Congress do?
Well, Congress should be, we have oversight. And he has come up with some false claims at different times with reference to these tariffs. And so what Congress needs to do, first we should vote. We should vote so that we can make sure that there's transparency for all of the American people to see which members of Congress, from Democratic side to the Republican side, are voting in favor of tariffs and who votes against. And then we should if we vote the way I think for the American people, to make sure their costs are not going up, inflation doesn't continue to rise, the cost of groceries don't continue to move up, the way buying electronics and cars, then I think that we would vote on behalf of the American people. Congress has the right. We are a separate and equal branch of government, and we should not bow down and just do something because this guy's president, who thinks he is the king, but the Constitution completely says that we didn't want kings in America. We should carefully use our oversight responsibilities and make sure that we're working on behalf of the American people and not on behalf of someone who would like to be a king.
So I know you're trying to force a vote here to give Congress some oversight, some control over these tariffs, but Speaker Johnson successfully blocked a vote on another bill recently specific to the tariffs on Canada through some procedural maneuvering. And here's his latest message on Trump's tariffs. Listen.
Long term, the best thing for the country is to have actual free trade agreements, and we haven't had that for a long time, and that's why I think this is long overdue and much welcome.
Long overdue, much welcome, he says. Can the speaker keep his party in line? What kind of conversations are you having with Republican colleagues?
Yeah, that's why I think he's trying to avoid the vote on the floor. If he wasn't afraid, he should have a vote on the floor on this tariff issues. In fact, Leader Jeffries has sent a letter to him to say, let's have a debate. Speaker Jeffries is ready to have a debate one-on-one with him on this very issue. He has declined and won't move forward with that. He won't put a vote to the floor. If he feels confident that that's where his conference is, then let's vote on it. Let the American people see.
Can you explain?
Let it be transparent.
Can you explain, though, what is in that legislation you want everybody to vote on?
Well, what's in the legislation basically is that we want to talk about that whether or not the emergency that the president has declared in order to issue tariffs based upon the Constitution, Congress determines tariffs or non-tariffs. And if the president wants to move ahead, he has to declare that there's a state of an emergency. He's changed around. On the Canada piece, he said the emergency was fentanyl coming through Canada. And there was no fentanyl coming through Canada. That was something made up. Then later, he talked about the borders on another issue. That was a made-up issue. So if, in fact, the president does not have a legitimate emergency to enunciate, then there is no reason for the president to try to go around Congress in regards to tariffs. because the Constitution says Congress makes that determination. And so we should, as members of Congress, take the power and utilize the power that the Constitution has given us to move forward. So that's what, basically my resolution sets forth.